For the last few days, several people have been calling me and writing me and telling me of how lonesome they are in this big city. And I don't want you to take that lightly, because that is quite possible. There are people who can come to cities like Detroit and like Chicago and New York and other large urban cities, having left their home grounds and their friends somewhere else and their familiar surroundings, and possibly who were active in their churches where they previously lived, and come to a strange city and feel lost. That is one way to be lonesome. Then there are others who have come to the big city and who have been caught up by its rapid pace, its fast movements, its gaiety, its revelry, its nightlife, its good times, and who have pursued the fantasy of pleasure in this manner and have grown tired, have lived to learn that this does not satisfy. As I said to you in the sermon on last Sunday night, in quoting words from Jesus, that man cannot live by bread alone. Also, man cannot live by pleasure alone. Did you hear what I said? I said man cannot find ultimate satisfaction in pleasure. If you believe it, try. You'll grow tired of the grind and the rapid pace and the crowd and the parties and the reciprocation that must go on. They entertain you, and you in turn entertain them. And then eventually you add up the cost that is involved. And you learn that you're going out the world backwards. I don't believe you know what I'm talking about. Do you all know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to say to you that man was made for God. Man was made for God. Man was not made for himself. Man was not made for pleasure. I mean alone. Man was not made for material things alone. Man was made for God. The reason why there are so many lonesome, frustrated souls in this big city, in other big cities, the reason why so many people feel maladjusted and feel useless is because there is no purpose in your life. When you are living, and remember, I'm not saying that man should not have pleasure in his life. Man should have pleasure in his life. I am not saying that man should not have the material things that he can acquire honestly and justly. I'm not saying that he should not have them. He should have them if he can. But what I am saying, no life is complete simply with the acquisition of pleasure or of material goods. For man was made for a nobler and a higher purpose. And if tonight you are listening to my voice and have been thinking that your life is useless, drab and unexciting and uneventful, if you are listening to me tonight and feel that you are on a merry-go-round that is just doing the same thing over and over again, day in and day out, remember that your life will remain thus until you tie it and involve it with something that is constructive, something that is lasting. To go through life with God out of it, to go through life with high purpose out of it, to go through life when your life is not dedicated or given over to anything worthwhile, then you are likely to become frustrated. And some people have even cracked up and lost their minds, and some have committed suicide. Not because always what appears to be the reason, for usually lives that go on the rocks like that are lives that had no purpose to begin with too much. Yeah, people say people killing themselves over one another, killing themselves because they lost money, killing themselves for this reason or that reason, or cracking up for this reason or that reason. Nobody that is healthy and sane, that make God the center of his life, is going to crack up. Is going to crack up. If you don't believe what I'm talking about, ask that old widow woman whose husband died and left her, and who had scarcely enough money to bury him, with no saving, and with 3 or 4 little children to bring up, and a meager job, or a job that afforded her only meager means. And she will tell you, because God was the center of her life, and because she put her faith in God, and because she plugged in on God and therefore on eternal life, even though it was dark, even though it was hard, even though sometimes she didn't know how ends were going to be met, sometimes she didn't know where her rent was going to come from, but because she held on to God's unchanging hand, she didn't crack up. The amazing thing about it, some of the women and even some men in predicaments like that have ultimately turned out to be successful enough to educate their children and bring them up as respectable citizens. That's a credit to their community and to their people. I wonder, do you know what I'm talking about? In the book of James, there is a question, a startling question, a challenging question. It is, what is your life? What is your life? Isn't that a challenging question? We know that there are over 2 billion people in the world today, according to the statistics. But what is your life? Are you just a number among 2 billion people? Are you just another person that makes up the population? What is your life? What does your life consist of? What are you doing with your life? For your time is not your own. As you hear people boastfully say sometime, my life is my own and my time is my own and I can do with it what I want to do. But your time is not your own. Neither is your life your own. You are merely the manager of your life. That life doesn't belong to you. That time doesn't belong to you. That time belongs to God. That life belongs to God. The life that you have is merely an investment that God has made in you, and for which He is holding you responsible. The story of the talents is a story of that. One man was given 5 talents, and another was given 2 talents, and one was given 1. The one that had been given 1 act very much like most of us act. He acted like it was his, and he could do with it what he wanted to do. And hence he, instead of putting his master's investment to an exchange, instead of doing with it what he was supposed to have done with it, to invest it and to bring back dividends for God, he buried it in the ground, so to speak, of indifference. And he did not anticipate his tragic end, however, because the Lord of those talents came back at an unsuspected time. The danger of it all is that you are given the control and the management of this investment that God has made in you. And that you are left on your own. God doesn't stand around and punch you. That is, literally, He doesn't to see what you're doing and how you're going to do. He merely lets you know that you are responsible for my investment. And that I'm holding you accountable. And that one day I will be back. And you must report to me for everything that you've done and how you have invested what I have given you. And I said the danger of it is you own your own. You own your own. But sometimes some people cannot stand to be on their own. Some people cannot stand responsibility. Some people cannot make good managers, it appears. Some folk are waiting for the first opportunity. As soon as the boss takes his eye off them, they're shirking, hiding, marking time. But that is dangerous, because the boss of your life, the giver of your life, the investor that has invested in you, know what you should do and know what he has made you capable of doing. Pray with me if you please. You're talking about a time clock. He has put one within all of us. He knows when you punch in and when you punch out. He knows whether you are late or on time. Pray with me, there's no escape. And if you are lying down on the job, if you haven't punched in for the last year or so, if you haven't reported for duty for the last months or so, he know it tonight. You can't escape. He's made an investment in you. And it's not left up to you to do what you want to do with it. You've got to one day account for the deeds done in your body. Why, I often say that when I look down on the casket and see those two little startling words, at rest, it doesn't always mean that the person that's in there is at rest. It sometimes means the home that he came out of is at rest. Now that he's gone, or now that she's gone. Sometimes it means that husband is at rest. Sometimes it means that wife is at rest. Now that they have laid you out. Are you praying with me? Sometimes it means that the church where he was a member is now at rest because they kept up so much confusion. Sometimes it means the neighbors or the people with whom they work are now at rest now that you're gone. So brothers and sisters, we should all remember that there is one who has an all-seeing eye and who knows what investment he's made in us. He knows whether or not he left with us one talent or whether or not he left with us two. He knows whether or not he's left with us 5. You see what I'm talking about? And he knows exactly what our report should be. That is, if it is a faithful report. Yeah, and I think that all of us, and especially those of you who have wandered away, and who simply think because you're getting by that you've gotten away. Well, remember, you may be getting by, but that doesn't mean you have got away. Pray with me if you please. I've seen people who committed crime and have gotten by for several years. And one day when they feel safe, satisfied, and secure, why, the FBI walk up and tap them on the shoulder and tell them exactly who they are and what they've done and where they did it. There was a man who gotten by but who didn't get away. And you talking about an FBI system. Why, my God has the best the world has ever known. He has all kind of agents working for him. Sickness worked for him, and it's sometimes one of his detectives. Oh Lord, and sometimes misfortune worked for him, and sometimes trouble will arrest us for him. And I don't believe you know what I'm talking about. Oh Lord, why sometimes experiences about our family life works on God's side. You may feel because you're getting by, you've gotten away. Oh Lord, if you're wasting your life and wasting your time, if you've forsaken God and like a prodigal went away from home into the far country of pleasure and into the far country of revelry, remember, great God, if you don't mind out like Jonah, great God, you know Jonah thought he'd gotten by too, you know, and thought he'd gotten away too. Oh Lord, but the Lord called his detective the wind, and then called another one of his officers the clouds, and spoke to another one of his agents the sea, and made that old sea boil like a potter, and made the winds roll themselves into a hurricane. I don't believe you know what I'm talking about tonight. Oh Lord, my God, great God, whispered to a whale and told him to be a submarine for him and keep up with that ship until he got Jonah convinced. Holy God Almighty. Oh Lord. And eventually Jonah had to come on up wire. He bought his ticket and then went down below deck. Pray with me if you please. And hid from the crowd and from the passengers and lay down and went to sleep. And trouble arose on the old vessel. Nobody knew what was going on or who was responsible. Nobody knew that Jonah was on board. You know, sometimes the vessels of our lives are rocking because there is a Jonah on board. You may not know why he is or who he is, but all of the shaking and all of the trouble that you are having is because there's a Jonah on board somewhere. Oh, Lord. But the Lord made the wind, the lightning, and the thunder, the sea work for him to bring Jonah out. Oh, Lord, he may be working on you, and you may think you are hid in the hull of life. And the reason why the storms of life are raging around you, God is trying to bring you out of where you belong and where you promised to be. I don't think you know what I'm talking about. Oh, Lord, you ought to do like Jonah. Great God. You know, Jonah cost the ship so much trouble. Yes, he did. They had to throw off supplies into the sea. They had to drown medicine and food that was intended for innocent people in the far country. Oh, Lord. But on the account of Jonah, they had to waste it all. Well, you may be causing other people to suffer because you are Jonah. Oh, Lord. Come on up. Yeah. And do like Jonah did. Come on up on board. Yeah. And tell the world, I know I'm wrong. Yeah. I know I've been running away. Yeah. I know I've been hiding. Oh, Lord. I know why I'm going through all that I am going through. The Lord is my God. I don't think you know what I mean tonight. Oh, Lord. If I were you tonight, wherever you are, if I'd been a Jonah, if I'd been like one of the talent men who've been laying down on a job, oh, I mean right now, even right where you are, right in your home, I'd make up in my mind, right now, you hear what I said? Oh, right now, right now, I'd make it up in my mind, yeah, like a wandering prodigal, I'd get up out the hog pen, like a running, hiding Jonah, I'd come out of the hull, yes I would, and I'd tell the Lord, 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 here I am, Lord, here I am, take me and use me in your own way. I tell him that, and I tell him now,